My name's Aiden. I'm 24, and until recently, I lived in what I used to think of as home, a modest two-story in a sleepy suburb where my parents had raised me and my younger sister, Rachel. From the outside, we probably looked like any other average family. But from the inside, it was a slow-burn psychological trap disguised as loyalty, masked by obligation, and laced with guilt. I've always been the responsible one. Ever since I started working part-time jobs in high school, I've been expected to contribute to the household. It started small. Pay for my own clothes, my own phone, my own gas. Fine. That felt fair. But by the time I graduated college, I was covering groceries half the time, paying the internet bill, and tossing in cash for emergencies that always seemed to involve someone else's needs. Usually Rachel's. Rachel is 20, charming in a manipulative way, and never hears the word no. She's been treated like a guest at a five-star resort her entire life. Didn't want to get a job? She's still finding herself. Failed another class? School's just hard for her. Spent $900 on makeup and Uber Eats in a single week? Don't judge her. She's under stress. Meanwhile, I graduated with a degree in IT, landed a remote job, and still helped around the house. Every time I tried to set boundaries, I was reminded of how grateful I should be that I was allowed to stay rent-free. Like that somehow justified everything they took. The resentment wasn't even the worst part. It was the way they'd laugh about it. My dad had a favorite line when I'd push back. One day, you'll thank me for keeping you humble. My mom preferred silence. Long, bitter stares like I'd broken some unspoken contract. And Rachel? She once joked that I was the family's debit card with legs. I laughed it off at the time. I shouldn't have. Everything snapped on my birthday. I woke up early to a cold kitchen. No decorations, no card, not even a happy birthday text. I wasn't expecting much, just a quiet day to myself, and maybe a break from the passive-aggressive guilt tripping. I made coffee, sat down at my desk to check emails, and saw it. A text from Dad. No greeting. No emoji. Just, sold your laptop. Your sister needs a new phone. Be grateful we feed you. I stared at the screen. Read it again. And again. My chest went cold. That laptop wasn't just mine, it was how I worked. My job was fully remote. Without it, I couldn't do a single task. And they knew that. Then the second text came through. Also, you'll pay her tuition, $6,000 by Friday. My hands shook as I read it. It wasn't a request. It was an order. No explanation. No shame. Like it was just assumed. Rachel had dropped 3 courses last semester and flunked another. She wasn't even a full-time student anymore, just drifting. And yet I was expected to fund her academic vacation while trying to keep my own life afloat? I replied with 2 words, no chance. Dad responded immediately. Then get out. You're cut off. No yelling. No threats. Just those words. Cold. Final. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just got up, walked to my room, and packed. There wasn't much I hadn't already paid for myself. My clothes, my work files, my backup hard drive. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't even slam the door. I just walked out, quietly, like I was late for a meeting. But not before leaving something behind. On the dining room table, I placed a neatly organized folder. Inside were a dozen printed documents, receipts, account statements, proof of every payment I'd made in the past 3 years. Cell phone plans, grocery runs, streaming subscriptions, a shared car insurance policy that had Rachel listed as a driver. Even a copy of the email I'd sent Dad last year when I loaned him $3,000 to help bridge the mortgage payment. He never paid it back. On top of the folder was a simple note. Just a few words. I wrote them slowly, carefully, until the pen felt like it might split. You wanted me gone. You got it. Everything else goes too. Then I walked out. The next morning, my phone lit up like a fireworks show. Missed calls, texts, even a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. Probably Rachel borrowing someone else's phone. I didn't answer any of them, but I read the messages. Oh, I read every single one. Rachel's panicking. Her new phone won't connect to any of the apps. She didn't know I was the primary account holder on the family plan. Her college portal shows a balance due and a hold on her registration. Apparently, her automatic payment from my account bounced. Oops. My mom's screaming. Literally. She left a 6-minute voicemail where she alternated between sobbing and screeching that I betrayed the family. She begged me to be mature and think about Rachel's future. This from the woman who once told me that my job wasn't real work because I didn't wear a tie. And my dad? Oh, he's trying everyone. He called my boss, using the emergency contact info I once gave him. Left a voicemail pretending to be concerned about my mental health. My boss forwarded it to me with a one-word caption, "Yikes." He tried calling my friends. Even messaged my ex-girlfriend from college asking if I was staying with her. He's flailing. The house is cracking. And they don't even know the full extent yet. I haven't even touched the final string I pulled. Not yet. But they will. Soon. I spent that first night in a quiet Airbnb I booked with the last-minute savings I hadn't told anyone about. It was a tiny one-bedroom loft on the edge of town, nothing fancy, just clean and quiet, with solid Wi-Fi and no judgmental eyes boring into me over the dinner table. It felt like breathing clean air for the first time in years. No backhanded remarks. No guilt-tripping glances. Just me, my phone on silent, and the dull hum of peace. I spent the evening sorting through everything I still controlled: accounts, subscriptions, joint plans. It was almost funny, really, how much I still had access to. My dad had once bragged that he made the rules because it was his roof. But like most old-school control freaks, he didn't understand how digital infrastructure works. I was the one who'd set everything up: Wi-Fi, utilities, shared banking, cloud storage. Over the years, I had quietly become the backbone of the household, the silent operator keeping everything running while they took it for granted. I didn't do anything drastic that night. I just waited. Let them stew. The next morning, I got a text from Rachel. "What's this, Aiden? Why can't I log into my student account? Where's the tuition money?" No greeting. No apology. Just that shrill, entitled tone I'd heard my whole life. Then another. "Dad said you'll fix this. You better." No, I wouldn't. Not this time. That's when I finally pulled the last string. I logged into the shared family cloud account, the one I set up when I was 17 because my parents couldn't figure out Google Drive. Every important document was stored there: tax returns, property records, Rachel's school files, mom's health insurance details. Over the years, they had just dumped everything into it, never thinking twice. I backed up a personal copy for myself, because I'm not cruel, and then I revoked access to everyone else. Next, I logged into our joint credit account, the one they added me to when Dad's credit score dipped too low to qualify for a limit increase. I wasn't even using it anymore, but they were. I paid off the balance from my share of the savings and filed a formal request to have my name removed, citing unauthorized charges. That alone would freeze the account until an investigation cleared. I wasn't worried. They wouldn't have a leg to stand on. Then I called the bank. I had set up the online banking system when Dad wanted someone tech-savvy to handle the accounts. He never updated his credentials. He trusted me with full admin access. He shouldn't have. I removed myself as a secondary holder on the savings account, froze the shared debit card, and I submitted a fraud inquiry on the transaction where my laptop was sold because, yes, I found the listing, the buyer's confirmation, and even the receipt Dad forwarded to himself. Classic mistake. Selling a work device that didn't belong to him? That's not just theft. That's illegal. Then I sent a single group message. Simple. Cold. Factual. You made it clear I wasn't family. I've made it official. Please do not contact me again unless it's through legal representation. The fallout began instantly. At 10:37 a.m., I got a call from the school's financial office. Someone had tried to impersonate me on the phone to override Rachel's payment block. The woman on the other end was professional but clearly rattled. I calmly explained the situation, and she flagged the account for further ID verification. Rachel wasn't going to be enrolling anywhere until she cleared the balance on her own. At 12:04 p.m., I got a text from Mom. "Please call me. We can fix this. You're still our son." At 12:07 p.m., another one. "We're family, Aiden. This is going too far." At 12:15 p.m., "You're acting like a child. Come home right now, or we're going to the police." And at 12:32 p.m., my favorite one yet, from Dad. "I always knew you were ungrateful. You've turned your back on your blood. Don't come crawling back when you've burned all your bridges." I didn't reply. Instead, I took a walk to clear my head. And for the first time in years, I felt light. Not happy, exactly. Not yet. But free. Like the invisible weight I'd carried for so long, the one called obligation had finally slid off my shoulders. It's strange, you know? For years, I thought walking away would make me the villain. That choosing myself over family would somehow mean I was cruel. But now? Now I see it for what it really was, survival. They didn't raise a son. They raised a resource. And when I stopped being useful, they cut the cord. What they didn't expect was that I'd do the same. And now? Now they've lost more than just their walking wallet. They've lost the one person who ever kept things together. But what none of them know yet, what's sitting like a ticking clock in a drawer back home, is the envelope I left behind, tucked neatly under that folder. Inside it, a letter. One that Rachel will read soon. One that will change everything. The envelope I left wasn't dramatic. It didn't scream for attention. In fact, it looked completely ordinary. Just a plain white letter-sized one, sealed neatly, addressed in simple pen strokes to Rachel. But inside, that was where the storm began. It wasn't a revenge note. I didn't rant. I didn't insult her. That would have been too easy and, frankly, beneath me. I wanted her to feel it. Not the kind of sting that comes with insults or cursing. The kind that sits in your chest days later, echoing in the silence when no one's texting you back, when the Wi-Fi's cut off, and when you realize the ATM just ate your card. That kind of sting. Inside the envelope was a printout of every tuition payment I'd made for her over the last 2 years. Every dollar, every receipt. Next to each one, I'd written the date she promised to pay me back or take it seriously this semester. All in her own texts, which I'd saved. Underneath, that was a copy of her academic transcript. She was failing. Badly. 5 withdrawals, 3 incompletes, 2 FS, and 1 solitary C. In something called digital media and society. It wasn't judgment, it was reality. And she was about to face it without me smoothing over the cracks. On the last page, I wrote, "You always said you'd step up when the time came." That time came. It left, and it won't be coming back. I'm not doing this anymore. You want a future? Build it. The free ride is over. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. She'd know. Later that afternoon, I got a single-word text from her. Why? Not how could you? Not you ruined everything. Just that one word, short, raw, exposed. And for a moment, I hesitated. Because, yeah, we're siblings. We shared bunk beds and Saturday morning cartoons once. I held her hand the first time she went to the dentist. She made me cards when I was sick in 5th grade. There were good times. That's what makes this kind of betrayal so complicated, because they weren't always like this. But over the years, entitlement grew where gratitude should have been. And what once felt like family started feeling like servitude. I didn't respond. Because she wasn't asking, why, out of reflection. She was asking, why, because she never saw it coming. And that said everything. But it wasn't just Rachel dealing with consequences. Around 3 p.m., I got a call from my old high school friend Jeremy. Apparently, my dad called him asking if he could talk some sense into me. Jeremy said he hung up after 30 seconds. "Dude," he told me, "your dad said you were mentally unstable for leaving." What is that? I laughed harder than I had in weeks. That night, my phone rang again, an unknown number. I ignored it. A minute later, a voicemail appeared. It was Mom. Her voice was cracking, not with sadness, but with the restrained fury of someone who just lost her lifeline and didn't know how to get it back. "We need to talk. You're being cruel, Aiden. You think this proves a point, but you're just punishing your family because you think you're better than us. Your sister is devastated. Your father hasn't eaten all day. I hope you're happy." I saved the voicemail, not because I planned to use it for anything, but because it was proof. Proof that even when everything fell apart, they still didn't understand. They weren't sorry for what they'd done. They were sorry they lost control. I checked my bank account. The tuition auto withdrawals had been canceled successfully. The cloud storage was locked. The shared subscriptions all now had password change notices next to them. One by one, I was cutting the invisible strings they'd wrapped around me for years. And it felt good, but something still tugged at me. See, this wasn't just about money or phones or laptops. It wasn't even about the tuition or my job. It was about value, about how people treat the ones they think they own. I gave and gave until there was nothing left of me but a wallet with Wi-Fi, and the second I pushed back, I became disposable. That was the real betrayal. Not the stolen laptop, not the entitled sister, but the realization that love in that house had always been conditional, and I just hadn't read the fine print. The funny part? I think they still believed I'd come back. They didn't know about the storage unit I'd been quietly filling for the past 6 months with my real valuables, childhood keepsakes, private files, an emergency fund. They didn't know I'd been preparing for this. They didn't know about the attorney I'd spoken to last week, either, or the power of attorney forms I'd had them sign years ago when Dad was recovering from surgery and I was managing the household bills. I hadn't used it yet, but let's just say they gave me more control than they realized, and now that I'm gone, I'm reviewing everything with fresh eyes. Because now it's my move, and they still have no idea what's coming. I waited 3 more days, not because I was unsure, or because I wanted to be cruel, but because I wanted to see what they'd do when the dust settled. When the shock faded, when the anger cooled, when the reality of independence, true independence, set in. I wanted to know if, buried beneath the ego and entitlement, there was an ounce of remorse. A single sign that they understood what they'd done. There wasn't. The final text I received from my dad sealed it. You're punishing your family over some stupid money. What kind of man turns his back on his blood? We took care of you your whole life. This is how you repay us? You'll regret this. Regret? No. What I felt was something closer to clarity. Like a film had been peeled off my vision, and I was finally seeing the people I grew up with for who they really were, not as the caretakers I once believed, but as emotional leeches who had built their comfort on my quiet compliance. I was done waiting, so I called my attorney. See, those power of attorney documents? I'd used them responsibly always. When Dad had heart surgery 4 years ago and was unable to manage his own affairs, I paid his mortgage on time, handled medical insurance negotiations, even fought a billing dispute with the hospital to save him thousands. I never used that power for anything selfish. But they'd signed it into permanence, and Dad never revoked it, probably forgot he even signed it, honestly. Now, after reviewing the documents with my lawyer, we realized something critical. I still had limited authority over several of their financial assets, including a savings account they used exclusively for Rachel's future education fund. A fund I'd contributed to significantly because Dad convinced me it was for the family. A fund I could prove, with bank transfers and email logs, I had partially financed. With my lawyer's help, I submitted a request to reclaim my share of that account, which amounted to just under $8,000. It wasn't theft. It was legal, documented, and fully within my rights under the original agreement. And I didn't even touch their share. I only claimed what was mine, what I had put in. It drained almost half the balance. I expected outrage. I expected chaos. What I didn't expect was what came next. Rachel showed up at my new apartment. I had moved into a small but cozy place across town, a clean slate with no lingering echoes of obligation. I never gave them the address, but Rachel always had ways of finding things out when it suited her. She banged on the door like her life depended on it. When I opened it, I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. She looked tired, hollow, even. Her mascara was smudged, hair thrown into a messy bun, and the expensive bag she once flaunted like a trophy was gone. She wasn't dressed up, no jewelry, no flashy attitude. She looked like someone who had finally crashed into reality. I need to talk to you, she said. I stepped aside and let her in, not because I owed her anything, but because I needed closure too. She sat on the edge of the couch like she didn't know if she was welcome. I didn't offer her water. I didn't ask her how she was. Instead, I said, "Why are you here?" Her eyes welled up, but I didn't see guilt. I saw desperation. "They're falling apart," she whispered. "Mom's barely talking. Dad is losing it. He called the bank screaming about fraud. They froze the account. He's blaming me." I raised an eyebrow. "And?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "You took my tuition money." "No," I said calmly. "I took back what I put in. The only reason you had that fund was because I contributed. You just didn't know." She looked down. "I didn't ask for this." "Yes, you did," I said. "Every time you ran up a bill and said, 'Aiden will handle it.' Every time you flunked a class and laughed because he'll pay anyway. Every time you watched them guilt me and you let them." Rachel started crying, but I didn't move to comfort her. "I didn't know it would go this far," she murmured. "That's the problem," I said. "You never thought it would go anywhere. You all assumed I'd always be there, fixing everything, cleaning up the messes, being the responsible one while you played pretend." Silence hung between us like fog. Finally, she stood up. "I'm sorry. I didn't say anything." She stepped toward the door. "I just thought maybe we could fix it." "We can't," I said. "Not until you all learn what it's like to live without someone fixing it for you." She left without another word. And that was the last time I saw any of them in person. A week later, I received an email from the bank confirming the finalization of the account split. I reinvested that money in a certification course I'd been eyeing for a year, but always put off because I was too busy helping family. With that certificate, I landed a new job, higher pay, better benefits, and complete independence. Mom tried calling once more a few weeks later. Left a voicemail saying she missed me, that things got out of hand, that they wanted to move forward and rebuild the family. But there was no family to rebuild, because family doesn't blackmail you with shelter. Family doesn't sell your work tools and demand thousands like you're their personal ATM. Family doesn't discard your worth the second you set a boundary. I deleted the voicemail. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was free. I spent the following months building my life. I traveled. I met people who saw me as a person, not a provider. I took up hobbies I'd abandoned years ago: photography, cooking, hiking. For the first time, I started living a life that wasn't wrapped in, what do they need next? Or, how do I keep the peace? One day, I came across an old photo of me and Rachel, Halloween 2007. She was dressed as a princess. I was dressed as a knight, holding her hand in front of the porch. I smiled. I still loved that version of her. The little sister who looked up to me. The one who hadn't yet learned that taking advantage of someone's love was easier than earning it. But we don't live in 2007 anymore. We live in now. And now, I'm not the family debit card. I'm not the background character in someone else's life story. I'm finally my own person.